Today, I'm going to explain a romance drama film called After Ever Happy from 2022. Turn on the subtitles, spoilers ahead. After being out for a while, Tessa and Hardin come back to where the after party of the wedding is taking place. Hardin's mother approaches him, and due to his facial expression, she realizes that Vance has told him the truth. She tries to apologize, but Hardin storms past her and goes to drink, where Vance joins him. Vance tells him that Ken, Hardin's father, was his best friend. However, when Ken went to university to study, Trish turned to Vance for emotional support, and they grew close after that. He explains that they had planned to run away and get married, but then Trish and Ken announced their pregnancy, leading to the cancellation of their plans. Hardin listens to the story but still believes that Vance should have been there, stating that if Vance had been brave, then Hardin's life would have been much different. After speaking with Vance, Hardin exits the hall. Meanwhile, Tessa is sitting with Kimberly when Vance informs her about Hardin leaving. Tessa immediately goes to follow him and finds Hardin sitting on a bench in front of his mother's house. Tessa asks Hardin to come back with her, but he refuses and reveals that he has just discovered that his entire life was a lie. He presents Tessa with a choice. She can either go back or drink with him. He then stands up, breaking the glass on the door to open it, and goes inside the house, pouring alcohol on everything. Tessa attempts to stop him, but he sets the house on fire in his rage. Soon, Hardin realizes his mistake and tries to extinguish the fire, but fails in his attempt. Suddenly, Vance arrives at the scene and apologizes again for not being there for Hardin. He acknowledges his error, emphasizing that Hardin destroying his entire life won't improve the situation. Vance pushes him out of the house, where Tessa awaits him in the car. They flee the scene just as the police arrive. Tessa drives for a while and stops at the top of a hill. There, Hardin apologizes to Tessa for repeatedly involving her in his problems. Subsequently, they make love in the car. Upon their return, Tessa talks to Kimberly. Though hesitant, she expresses that she doesn't want to burden Kimberly, given the challenges she is already facing. Kimberly reassures her that it's okay, prompting Tessa to share her feelings of drowning and uncertainty about whether she can continue to fight for herself and Hardin. As they converse, Vance interrupts and informs them that Hardin has left the house. Tessa decides to go after him to bring him back. She calls his phone, but instead of Hardin, someone else answers and informs Tessa that Hardin is at a party. She requests the address and then heads to the house, where she finds Hardin in a drunken state, being embraced by a woman. Filled with anger, she asserts that Hardin has a single opportunity to come with her. She explains that if he doesn't accompany her and she leaves the house, he will never get a chance to re-enter her life. Hardin rejects her proposition, stating that it's Tessa who repeatedly returns, even though they seem to be stuck in a cycle. In frustration, Tessa storms away from the scene and subsequently returns to New York on her own. Landon picks her up from the airport and drops her off at her apartment. Upon entering, Tessa surveys the surroundings and discovers her father, possibly deceased due to an overdose. Upon receiving the news, Landon hurries to the apartment and attempts to contact Hardin, but receives no response. At the same time, Hardin is at a party when Landon calls again. One of his friends answers the call and then hands the phone to Hardin. Hardin asserts that if he had wanted to talk to Landon, he would have answered the first time he called. Landon disconnects the call, expressing that Tessa will face this situation alone, similar to how she dealt with many challenges in the past. Upon hearing this, Hardin promptly redials and learns about Richard's passing. He requests to speak with Tessa, but she declines to converse with him. Tessa is in her room, reflecting on her positive moments with Hardin when she hears a heated exchange outside her door. Before long, Hardin enters without heeding Landon's cautions and attempts to engage Tessa in conversation. However, she rebuffs his efforts and walks away. Hardin follows her and discovers her seated in the garden. Tessa expresses her desire for solitude, prompting Hardin to silently sit beside her. Later, Hardin encounters Tessa's mother, who observes that he resembles Richard in leaving when faced with challenges, with the only distinction being his consistent return. Hardin expresses his deep love for Tessa, assuring her that he won't leave her. However, Carol counters that if he genuinely loves her, he should be willing to let her go, as being with him prevents her from attaining what she truly needs. Hardin encounters Tessa once more and conveys his understanding of her pain, apologizing for the events that transpired in London. Tessa conveys her belief that their narrative was akin to a fairy tale and that they would endure to recount it to others. Yet, her perspective has shifted. She now desires to experience love rather than merely survive. She apologizes to Hardin for her inability to mend him and reveals her inability to continue in that role. Subsequently, they attend his father's funeral together. Later, Hardin engages in a brief conversation with Tessa, apologizing for his mistakes and expressing his readiness to support her, even considering relocating to Seattle with her. However, Tessa remains firm in her determination to end their relationship. In a subsequent interaction, Tessa confides in Kimberly, sharing her intention to go to New York with Landon. In a separate turn of events, Hardin approaches his father, Ken, and recounts the recent developments in his relationship with Tessa. During their conversation, Hardin voices his grievances about Vance. When Ken mentions the difficulty of witnessing a loved one marry another person, Hardin counters by emphasizing that he is not Vance and therefore won't allow Tessa to be with anyone else. As the topic shifts to Vance, Ken receives confirmation that he is, indeed, Hardin's biological father. However, he had resisted accepting it due to his affection for Hardin. Ken acknowledges that this doesn't justify his descent into alcoholism. Meanwhile, Tessa visits the doctor for her test results. The doctor confirms that her chances of conceiving are extremely slim and, if it were to happen, it would come with substantial risks. Upon returning home, she begins to drink while seated by the pool. A call from Hardin interrupts her, and he deduces her inebriated state. Concerned, he arrives to check on her. He helps Tessa into bed, where she opens up about her desire for a baby and their relationship challenges. Hardin encourages her to sleep, assuring her that they can discuss these matters when they're both sober. In the morning, Hardin inquires about Tessa's concerns and assures her that he's supportive if she's pregnant. Tessa proceeds to share the doctor's revelation, leaving Hardin taken aback by the news. He admits that he hadn't thought about having children in that manner, but acknowledges that he would have cherished the opportunity to start a family with her. Witnessing his reaction, Tessa becomes frustrated, claiming that he doesn't have the right to feel disappointed because it was her dream. She also expresses her suspicion that he had been involved with a girl in London, though Hardin denies it vehemently, insisting that she is the only one on his mind. Amid their conversation, they receive a message from Ken, inviting them to Landon's farewell party. During the dinner, the atmosphere is relaxed and conversation flows naturally. After some time, Tessa pulls Hardin aside, indicating that she has something important to share. Outside, Tessa reveals her decision. Due to the ongoing challenges and past experiences within their relationship, she believes they need some time apart to sort things out. Tessa articulates that their frequent conflicts and the cycle of their relationship have become exhausting. Hardin's anxiety intensifies, and he assures her that he comprehends her concerns and will put effort into addressing them. Tessa remains resolute in her choice, disclosing her intention to relocate to New York with Landon. Fueled by frustration, Hardin confronts Landon, attributing Tessa's departure to him. Landon counters by asserting his role as a friend to Tessa and his inability to watch her suffer. Amid the argument, Hardin storms out once again, with Tessa trailing behind. He confesses that he feels lost without her and believes they can overcome their challenges. Tessa, however, explains that she needs time to find herself and determine her own path. She expresses that if he truly loves her, he won't try to follow her. Subsequently, Tessa and Landon move to New York and share an apartment. Tessa begins working at a restaurant alongside their friend Nora. A few months later, Landon informs Tessa that Hardin is coming to New York and plans to stay with them. Landon is uncertain about the purpose of Hardin's visit but contemplates allowing him to stay in a hotel. Tessa responds that she is already working double shifts and that it's not an issue for her. Landon reassures her that if any problems arise, she can stay at Nora's place. Later that night, while Tessa is working at the restaurant, Nora approaches her, informing her that Landon and Hardin are present and want Tessa to attend to them. When Tessa approaches their table, Hardin inquires about the time her shift ends. After she shares the timing, she returns to her duties. Upon completing her shift, she exits the restaurant only to find Hardin waiting for her outside. He explains that he wanted to ensure she arrived home safely. Tessa points out that she walks every night and doesn't need his protection, but she nevertheless allows him to accompany her. Hardin queries why she's working at the restaurant. Tessa responds that she enjoys the work and it keeps her occupied while awaiting her admissions. As they continue walking, a homeless man approaches them. Hardin moves to intervene, fearing for their safety, but Tessa steps in, offering food to the man. She draws a parallel between this gesture and caring for her father in a similar way. At night, Hardin once again experiences a nightmare, prompting Tessa to offer him comfort and join him on the couch. Over the following days, they noticeably grow closer as Hardin escorts her home each night. They engage in lengthy conversations, sharing their experiences during their time apart. Hardin discloses that he started attending therapy and successfully completed his university studies. Concurrently, Nora and Landon's relationship blossoms, adding another joyful chapter to Hardin and Tessa's lives. One evening, with Landon at Nora's place, Tessa returns home to find Hardin sitting alone on the couch. They engage in conversation and, eventually, succumb to their desires, sharing a moment of intimacy. The next morning, Hardin leaves, and Tessa discovers a book titled After among his belongings. Curious, she reads the book and realizes it chronicles the story of their own relationship. When Hardin returns home, Tessa confronts him, asserting that her life is her own, and he has no right to publish it without her consent. Hardin explains that he had been writing the book since the inception of their relationship, and he had shared it during therapy, where a publisher expressed interest, leading to its publication. He contends that she shouldn't be upset since the entire book isn't centered on her, and there are substantial portions that do not involve her. This explanation only fuels her anger, ultimately prompting her to definitively end their relationship. After some time, Hardin's book becomes a sensation in New York. He also reconciles with his mother and apologizes to her. Meanwhile, Tessa reconnects with Robert due to Landon relocating with Nora. One evening, Tessa clandestinely attends Hardin's book signing. There, she observes an interaction between Hardin and a woman, misconstruing it as romantic involvement. Believing that Hardin has moved on, as she departs the venue, Hardin catches a fleeting glimpse of her while she walks away. Thank you for being a part of our journey. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment below. Your support means the world to us. Stay inspired and spread positivity. See you soon.